I'm Brianna Ladd with ATG, I'm a Technical Specialist, and today's webinar topic is a rapid sheet creation with room data sheets from the BIM Project Suite. The BIM Project Suite is from CTC Tools, or CTC Software, and it's a tool set, an add-in tool set that adds in to Revit. So we're going to look at this will be a shorter session today, probably about 15 minutes, maybe plus or minus a couple minutes there. But the main goal today and what we're going to be taking a look at is understanding the ease of use of the Room Data Sheets tool. We're going to look at the out-of-the-box way of creating sheets, a little bit more tedious, probably what we're all used to doing. And then we'll give a little bit of an introduction to the BIM Project Suite, looking at the Room Data Sheets tool. And then we'll go ahead and we will run the tool, defining some rooms and setting up our views for that sheet. We'll look at some more of the options within the tool, such as setting our scale, our view templates, naming our views, making changes, and how we can take a look at a preview of those changes before we go ahead and create those sheets. So we'll have some time for questions at the end. Again, this is just kind of a brief introduction, so we will dive in here. And thanks once again for joining. The out-of-the-box way of creating a room, placing an elevation, creating a schedule, creating the sheet, setting the title block, selecting that, renaming the views possibly, placing the views, creating the schedule, and placing the schedule on the sheets. Versus what this looks like is the interface of the tool we'll be looking at for room data sheets. So we'll have some time for questions at the end, and let's go ahead and jump into Revit. So the manual way, once again, if I wanted to go ahead and create some views, I would probably begin by creating my sheet. So we can right-click in the project browser to create a sheet. Again, selecting my title block. I can obviously as well create a sheet from the View tab up here and create a new sheet. Here's where I would create my new sheet. And I would begin to create my views that I want to place on those sheets. So I might create some views, duplicate the views, go ahead and rename that view for whatever I want to display. And I would begin to create a 3D view for this, this space also. So if I'm looking at one of these spaces, I would go ahead and place the room, as I've done on these ones already. I go ahead and place the room on some of these, again, manual, very manual, and place the items in there. I would also go through and I would place my elevations, so my interior elevations, and I would select which ones of those I wanted to display on the walls. So I'm perhaps with either of these rooms that I've created, I might choose to do an elevation of each of the walls, potentially. So again, I'm clicking, creating those elevations of that space. Perhaps I want to create a schedule of that, so I'd be going ahead and creating my schedule also of that room. And then as soon as I have those, I'd begin to drag and drop these views onto my sheet. Again, taking my time to perhaps organize the layout and look of them as I go, or rearranging them after. Based on my rearranging them, I might have to reorder my views, renumber my views, because the order that they're placed on my sheet, I may want to have this be number 1 again now instead. So now I'd have to renumber this view, this title on this view, and I'd have to renumber this, and then I sometimes will get that, I most likely will get that error that says that I have duplicate mark values for my views, so I have to overcome that challenge also. Perhaps I want to set up, again, perhaps I want to set up a 3D view of that area also. So then I need to come in there, drop my camera view on that location where I want that, close my view here, place my camera view where I want that to be to display what I want to display in that room, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of getting us there for this manual process, and we would then drag our view onto our sheet, set the scale of the view, also rearrange the view, set the graphic display option of the view, and so on. So I wanted to show you guys today the ease of use. Again, I have actually my target view of my room that I wanted to prepare a data sheet for today, and this is my sitting area. So once again, I'll go through that. I haven't placed a room in this space yet, so I'm going to place a room in here, and I will call this sitting room. All right, and now based on this, we're going to look at the automation of the room data sheets, creating this information and creating a sheet much faster. So once again, the BIM Project Suite is the green set of tools from CTC software. The light-colored tools, if you're not familiar with this add-in, are free tools. So we'll take a look at renumbering here at the end of this demonstration also. This is a helpful tool to go out and grab for yourselves today if you want to test the trial of this suite. But we're also taking a look at one of the premium tools here, which is the room data sheets from the BIM Project Suite. So if I open up the tool, now that I have a room created, this is the interface that I have here for this. And we're going to go through some of this information here. So I have, first of all, once I set up all this information, what is great about the tool is we have the options to reuse it later on. So if there's a certain configuration that I use for my sheets over and over again, there's kind of a certain amount of views and items that I want to see on my sheets, I can go ahead and save that configuration and then just load it up the next time. So if I navigate to that save location, then all my views down here will populate. So we're going to walk through the process here of actually picking a room or a space, so it's as easy as that, and then setting up our views that we want to create of that room. So right now, again, I've cleared out everything. The nice thing too, if you don't save the configuration and reload it, the tool does remember the last views that you had added in that views dialog box down there. So again, it is pretty repeatable to just make some minor changes as you go along creating these data sheets. So I'm going to go ahead and click down here where it says add a row. And you can see I get this Windows flyout here that it's asking me what kind of view I want to add to my data sheet here. So I'll go ahead and select my floor plan. And I'm just going to go ahead and do this a couple more times because I know I'm going to want some elevations. I know I'm going to want my schedule. I know I'm going to want a 3D view. And we'll start with that so far. So besides the views here, there's a couple other additional options within each view that I can set. So if I open up this tree mode here, I have other options, many other options. So, and by default, there are in its simplest least clicks for this tool to run, I can simply just go with the default. So I don't even have to set any of this information. It'll default and get me a sheet with my views very quickly and easily. But if you want to customize it, there's options. So I can tell this, put this view under my floor plan, of course. Or I could just use the default, and by default, it's going to put it under my browser organization, under my floor plans view. I can go ahead and give it a different name if I want to. I can customize the name. Otherwise, by default, the view name is going to take the name of the view and place that on the sheet. It's going to be also the view title on the sheet. I can look at and apply a view template to it. So if I wanted this to be a furniture plan, view template, or a finish plan view template, I can apply that view template onto that. Of course, I can select my scale. I can select the scale that I want it to be for this view. I can select my offset. So the offset for the plan views, this is the dimension beyond the room or the boundary to include. So for elevations, this is the distance from the boundary to its parallel cut plane inside the room or the space. I can also set the viewport, whether I want a title on it or not, and so on. So if we look at elevations, I have most of the same options for my elevation views, and as you can see, it's defaulting to multiple, and it's doing all boundary directions that meet the length requirement. So it's going to give me all of those directions, my north, south, east, west walls within this room. I can, again, choose my schedule and choose my view. Now, I am going to add I'm going to add one more here, and this is layout. So if I add layout down here, I have the option to do a page break or a row break. And the difference between these two is that it's going to place my room and my views of one room on a sheet, and then if I chose to do 2 rooms, it's going to actually place the second room and all of the views on the next sheet. So as in a page for one room and a page for the next. If I choose row, and we'll take a look at that, if I choose the row layout, all it's going to do is put a gap in between all of my views for my room 1 and my room 2. So we'll start with, we will start with the page break layout. All right, so I've got my views set up. Once again, if I want to run this multiple times, I can go ahead and save the configuration. I can also choose what title block. I'll stick with the default one in here, and I can choose my margins and spacings of how I want my views to show up. This is live. My project can be live while I'm running this tool, of course, as well. So if I go ahead and say pick rooms or spaces, this is also a little bit shocking with this tool, is that the tool goes away again so that I can work live in my project. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the breakfast area here on my image and my sitting room here on my image. And then again, this is a little bit different from the other tools. I have to finish this selection that I'm creating over here on kind of my options ribbon bar underneath my main ribbon here in Revit. And I'm just doing these 2 rooms since these are kind of the areas that I had set up for this demonstration here today, because I've got some furniture in there to create a furniture schedule. And I could do multiple rooms. As you can see, I can continue to go ahead and select multiple rooms at a time. For today's purposes, again, I'm just going to choose the 2. So then I'll hit finish. And as I hit finish, my tool comes back and I see that my rooms and my spaces are listed there. And again, I could go ahead and start some naming conventions, give it some naming conventions, or it'll take on the naming conventions by default of the room. I could give it a prefix if I wanted, my sheets to begin with A, and then my numbering to be 101, and then increment up from there. If I wanted to have a suffix on there, I can do that too. And so I've got this stuff mostly set up for these two rooms here. If I wanted to double check, once again, we're going to have a floor plan view created, elevations, all of our elevations, schedule, a 3D view, and we're going to have a page break so that my breakfast area views are going to be on one page and then my sitting room are going to be on another. And then I like this idea of the tool too, this feature, is that it's a preview here. So I can actually just hit the refresh here, and it will give me the image preview of what it will look like. So again, I'm looking at this, I'm thinking that my views were way too large, my scale was way too big. All my views were actually jumping onto another sheet. So all of my 1.1 views were jumping onto the next sheet when that's not what I wanted to have happen. I wanted all of my views relative to that space to be on one sheet. So I went ahead and I just changed my scale. You'll notice too that if the view goes off of one of the sheets, it will be indicated in red. So you have the option to kind of preview your images, your views, how your sheets are going to lay out, and then make some additional changes. So again, we said we were going to look at the layout here. So this is the page break. I've got all my views that are going to be lined up, but also if we went ahead and we changed this type to the row break, rather than having them be on separate sheets, there would just be a gap, a row in between those spaces. So this would be what our preview and our sheets would look like. So I'm going to go back to page break for this one. Again, I'm going to go ahead and leave it like this. This looks like it's all right scaling for me. So I'm going to go ahead and again say create sheets. So all of this, I've been talking a lot, pointing things out. Obviously, as simple as it could have been, all I had to do was click the pick room to start, click my rooms that I wanted to create. Likely all of these views would have populated from the last time I opened the tool, so I've now only done 1, 2, 3, and then perhaps 4, 5 clicks. So really, really quick and easy. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, create the views, and all of my views would be created. I've got some floor plan views up here, of course, of those spaces. You can, I might not have my elevations turned on. You can see my 3D views were created. My elevations were all created of those things. And if I keep on scrolling down, I've got a schedule for both of those. And my sheets were created also. So, and I can go ahead and close out of the tool now. And I have my sheets created. It looks like I did, unfortunately, I did rename that one to have the same naming conventions on that. But it created all of these views. It placed them on the sheet. And I guess I said no title block on them. So I maybe would want to run that again and go change it. What I also wanted to show you guys was as you kind of decide where you want these to be placed on your sheet here, you can go back through with the renumbering tool and actually renumber your details after you've reordered the views on the sheet. So that's a kind of a companion tool that works nicely with this room data sheet. And turn these back on. So now that I've rearranged these views, perhaps I don't like the numbering. It goes 3, 4, 5, 2, 6. So I can come back in here with this renumbering tool, go to my detail numbers, tab within the tool, obviously you can see that the rooms, doors, grids, details, and then the general tab here. The general tab will work on any marked value within an element. And I'll check box this auto swap detail number, and this will basically allow me to override the detail number if the same one does already exist. Oops, and I didn't start a sequence. So I'm going to start with 1. Again, I can do a prefix or a separator and a suffix on there too, and then just come through. That one's already 2, and then that one's going to be 3, 4, and 5. So that is basically what I had to show you today for using the Room Data Sheets tool. I hope that you found it useful and can use it in the future to create some views and sheets relatively quickly and much easier. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'd be happy to answer some questions if you have any. Otherwise, we'll see you next time, and have a great day.